So warm welcome for the next CIO-Talk that we're hosting tonight here at WU. I'm very glad that Teichenthaler is with us to introduce us to Hutchison Drei, Austria, and their IT program. I asked beforehand, so how am I supposed to pronounce this letter 3? And he said, well, it's typically pronounced in the language that is spoken in the respective countries. So, and therefore we're talking about Hutchison Drei, Austria today. One thing that may be also interesting to you guys is that I also asked beforehand how is actually IT organized here, because we're talking about a multinational company. And the interesting thing is that all IT operations really hosted in Austria. So it means, well, if the company may sound attractive to you, you really can get your hands dirty here and play around all the knobs and dots in the business. Right, so I leave it with this from my side. Warm welcome again. I'm looking forward to your talk. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks for the warm welcome. Thanks for hosting me here and giving me the chance to present our company and some interesting challenges what we are facing. Up front, I have to say it's pretty much an open talk, so I do have a few slides, thousands of those. No, not really. And I will just walk through the change what we are currently experiencing when it comes to business change management, when it comes to disruption. So this is the topic what I will address. Prior starting, maybe a few words to myself. I'm Kurt. I'm working within the IT for quite some time. I would say 97 roundabout, all the way through in telco. So did 2 telco startups. The first one was Max Mobil in Austria, now known as T-Mobile. And I'm now with Hutchison for nearby 20 years, starting pretty much from scratch, having nothing in Austria, to the company what we are currently having here in Austria. Maybe a few words more about my knowledge and history, what I've experienced and learned. So after building up Hutchison in Austria, launching 3 telco here in Austria, I worked quite a lot on an international level. So I did some centralization projects for Hutchison, specifically with Italy, with UK, in Ireland and so on, centralizing some IT services for the group. What gave also kinds of experience specifically when it comes to change management and people. So let's just start on. I will bother you right at the start a bit with a few words about CKHH and our company, and then we go into the details. So our mother company is CKHH, based in Hong Kong. We have, I think I have a slide for that, hang on. Yes. We have various business areas, so starting from the left-hand side, telecommunications, where our company is in. We are doing telecommunications mainly in Europe, I would say, so as named before, UK, Ireland, Sweden, Denmark, Italy, Austria, but we do have also OpCos in Indonesia and Macau and Hong Kong for sure, as well as Sri Lanka and Vietnam. The service where we are originally coming from is ports and related services, so container shipment. This is where Hutchison is coming from. So all the logistics and container shipment around the world, the most of them are owned by Hutchison. Other than that, we do have retail, we do have energy, and we do have infrastructure. Maybe retail, one you know at least when you are from Austria, that's Marionneau, what belongs to the Watson Group. Hutchison in Austria. So as mentioned, we started the company in 2001, went live at the go-to-market in 2003, offering the first 3G services locally here in Austria. We did the same parallel in all the other countries in Europe. And from the original idea that we do things centrally, we pretty much moved away as we went on. And have currently pretty much decentralized everything. So all the different telcos in the different nations, they're pretty much independent and just financially managed by Hutchison in Hong Kong. But we don't have a real tight relation to each other. What is quite interesting when it then comes to kinds of business change management or change management on future topics, how you evolve various opcos, some kinds of in the same manner, having the same strategy, the same targets, but different implementations. As it stands now, we have 1,500 employees here in Austria and serve around about 4 million customers. Out of these 4 million customers, the main base is consumer-based. Now, from beginning of last year, by buying Tele2, we do have also the B2B service offerings in our portfolio. So our focus now is also to get more into the B2B market, as before we just have been pretty much focused on the consumer market. In addition to that, we serve also various other products like 3TV, so IPTV, smart home, things like that, what are a bit more new, I would say, not the old-fashioned telco, talking about packet switched and voice and messaging services, where we pretty much have a focus on also for the future. So in simple terms, what we're offering mobile communication, obviously. We're offering mobile internet and internet, nowadays also fixed line, TV, and various business solutions for mainly the medium enterprises. I can skip that, that's just, yeah. So, as mentioned, the topic what I would like to address today is pretty much change in an established business environment. Why? Because on one side I have seen a lot of transformation projects in various countries. Pretty much not all of them have been successful, I would say, or let's say it in other words, it's quite tricky when you set the targets for a transformation program to reach those. As usually such programs are taking quite a while. We're talking about 2 years, 3 years, up to 5 years. And the environment around you is changing all the time. So the targets and the expectations you set at the start are for sure not the targets what you want to reach 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after. And therefore it's a quite an interesting question how you treat those changes in your environment, in your market, to get it out to the customers, to get it into the company, into the enterprise in a more faster, more agile way than in the original transformation program implementation mode, I would say. Prior to I go into that, maybe a few words what I've forgotten regards the IT in Austria. So I'm leading the IT in Austria. We are currently around about 300 to 370 people, depending on the workload what we are having on projects. We serve the whole company when it comes to CRM, so everything in the direction of customer lifecycle management, billing and payment functions, enterprise analytics functions, so the original data warehousing as well as big data analytics. We do have for sure all the supporting functions for the corporate itself, talking about ERP, help desk services and so on, as well as the consumer products and business products development departments. So those are the departments who are developing our products further for the consumer segment as well for the business segment. We're currently organized, maybe some few words how we are organized. We changed our organization in 2017 to full agile. Prior to that time, we worked, I would say, on a iterative change process, iterative waterfall, addressing various demands. And we as an IT, we challenged them regards the prioritization, regards the value, and so on and so forth. But it was our part to challenge it and come up with the right timeline, how it gets implemented. Back in 2017 then we changed that. We went completely to agile ways of working. So we are completely agile. Doesn't matter if it's the core business in billing CRM environment or the consumer products, everything is agile. and we currently have around about 36 product teams developing the whole architecture, the whole environment together with the business. So few topics what are kinds of interesting, specifically when it comes to change management. Back in 2013, we took over Orange Austria. So from 2013 onwards to 2016, we did the consolidation, firstly on the market, so getting out with the brand name Drei, letting Orange disappear from the market. But then the real work starts, and we consolidated the two companies into one company, including all the IT services, the infrastructure behind it, to get to a common stack, to a common architecture, migrating all customers together on one single architecture stack. Why is this important? On one side, because the more you have consolidated your functions within the IT, the better you can act, the better you can react on things that are happening, the faster you are. But on the other side, what is also quite impacting is the size of the company. So prior to that point, we have been 500 to 700 people, quite to be overseen, I would say. And at that size of a company, it's rather easier to manage any kinds of change and topics, initiatives that are upcoming, just simply due to the size of the company. It's easier, it's more, you can overlook it. Now going up to 1,500, this is kind of not the case anymore, because the organization is just getting too big, and the processes are usually on and on a bit overwhelming, the initiatives what you're doing, and that makes you slow. And this is something what we want to address, because we don't want to be slow, we want to be fast on the market, we want to have a good time to market on any kinds of products and services what we are bringing out, and that is the main target what we are aiming for. 2016, as mentioned, we started with big data analytics as well, so extending our footprint on the analytics area to support those services as well. In 2017, as mentioned, we introduced agile ways of working, specifically now on the IT and product side, including the business from a product ownership perspective, but not having the full landscape, talking about end-to-end from the idea, from all the business activities, what needs to be done, down to the deployment, to the production. So this is currently not the case. This is something where we are currently now looking into when we're evolving how we can get to a real end-to-end view on the products, what we are developing and what we are serving for our customers. In 2017, we also acquired Tele2, so we have in parallel the next merger on topic. We consolidated the market to the brand name already in this year, so in September. But as mentioned before, the same story starts again, consolidating then everything from the IT side, all the processes, etc., is just simply now starting, and that will go for a while. We're talking till 2021. Potentially that we have consolidated all the product services, the internal functions, the IT, etc., to go back to have a single stack, single architecture within the IT.
Can you say one or two words how you decided to do the merger actually on the technical level? Did you say, okay, we just take the data into the one system that we have as the main system, or did you try to mix up functionalities? What are your experiences on that?
What we decided upfront already was how the architectural footprint will look like, and the reason therefore is pretty much that one thing we have in common as a group at Hutchison is the application and licenses. So getting out of an application and license deal from group perspective doesn't make a lot of sense. We just simply lose the group power when it comes to licensing of applications. So therefore the main applicational areas have been set as the Hutchison applications. and we just looked into those areas where we had not the support of the service what we would like to have, and Orange had kinds of applications what might suit or could suit, then we looked into it. Other than that, it was pretty much customer by customer migration. So we migrated each customer from one stack then to the other. First of all, building up all the products and services, the tariffs, etc., what we require, and then migrating the customer over from one stack to the other till it's consolidated and finished. And that is now with Tele2 is pretty much from that perspective repeat. So we are planning pretty much the same. Some differences are there for sure. On one side, as mentioned, Tele2 had a much more a business B2B focus, what we haven't had before. So we have new products and services what we need to implement. We also need to reinvent them a bit due to various reasons. So they are not all state of the art, and we want to bring them up again to state of the art. So that varies, and for sure the company size varies. So whereas the merger with Orange was pretty much a 50-50, now it's more like a 80-20, what just from a cultural aspect gives you some difficulties to really take it serious and take the topics and the issues what the employees are having from the Tele2 side serious, because it's not that leveled. So that's true. And by the way, when you do have any kinds of topics, questions, whatever, just please raise your hand and give me a shout so I can stop talking. Going to 2018, as mentioned, so the brand, the new brand is out. Tele2 disappeared from the market. We made a Drei brand, so various brands for the various business segments. So we have separated brands for the B2B area as well as for the wholesale and consumer and so on. And the thing what us is most concerning, I would say, is we're still in the learning phase of our agile ways of working evolution. As mentioned, we did quite a big organizational change, change in the setup, change in the ways of working in 2017. By that point in time, it was seen as being finished in a few months. When you are then into such a journey, you recognize immediately we're not talking about months, we are rather talking about years, as you're pretty much changing everything, how you have things done before in the company and how you will do things in future. And therefore we are still into this game with the target to get agility into our business, to get fast reactions on time to market, on new products, on new competition, what is upcoming. So now let's go into the topic. So maybe when it comes to any kinds of changes within your environment, usually you have various ways how you react on such changes. The typical reaction, I would say, from a senior management perspective is let's make a big program, let's come up with a plan, let's come up with the targets, etc., etc., and then address it from a project's perspective. As we are used to over the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, how we do projects. So you scope it, you make your timelines, you make your budget, you set your targets, your key milestones, and then move on. The topic on that, from my experience, is as simple as that it does not work in this way. Why? It comes to timing. You cannot predict what is happening in a 3 years period of time. You cannot foresee the future where you are in a 3 years period of time. Your surroundings are changing. Your competition is changing. And in the time of everything going digital and global, you even don't know who your competition is tomorrow. And that makes it quite tricky to act and react on such changes of your environment. So, as mentioned, so you simply don't know who your competition of tomorrow is. So when you look on the telco side, for sure WhatsApp was coming up, Skype is coming up, Google is trialing with telco service and so on and so forth. So there are various big companies out there who are also trying to get a piece of the cake of the telecommunications market. And on the other side, we are in kind of a similar situation, because we are in a quite established business, in a stable business, but still we have the appetite to grow. Growing in a quite a market what is pretty much settled is tricky without getting out on the market with new services. So therefore we are also looking into piloting, prototyping new services, seeing what a cool service would be, could be for the market, where we can address the market and gain revenues and margins there. So that is pretty much the challenge where we are in. Another topic that's a bit black and white here, but another topic what is for sure changing is that evolving over human generations when it comes to learning how we are doing things and what we are doing is simply too slow. So what is completely obvious that when you are in the business, not only as a corporate, also as an employee, you have to evolve, you have to learn all the time. And that needs to be supported. That needs to be supported from the corporate, that needs to be supported from the organization, from the HR department, and so on. Other than that, you would simply stand still, and when you stand still as an employee, also the company is standing still, and we are not evolving. And finally, the impact is happening in months, I would say, or in some years, so you don't have a lot of time to react. If someone is coming into your market, trying to take shares from your products and services, and you just simply don't have the time to react on that, making a big program out of it, and so on and so forth. So the time to act and react is key. And therefore, the question what is asked pretty much is, what are the options? How can you address the changes what are happening in the environment, the changes what are happening from a technological perspective, and how can you bring it to your business and at the end to your customer immediately? Not in 2 years, in 2 months, in 3 months. So how do you bring this change into your organization, into your products? And as well here again, quite black and white, but saying that there are, to make it simple, 2 options. Either you set up a big transformation program, or you evolve your company to a continuous adoption, to a structure and the setup of the organization, that you continually evolve your capabilities, that you take innovation on from process perspective already, and get it into your products immediately when the teams see there's benefit and value into it. What is the difference? Maybe I'll try to explain it on an example talking about cloud. So I think over the past 5 years, everybody in the IT space was talking about the new cloud business, the great services what you can have out of the cloud. And actually, yes, there are a lot of great services in the cloud, mentioning AWS, mentioning Azure, and so on and so forth. But all those services doesn't bring you forward when you don't use them in a way that it's a value for your own product. And you can now have a look on cloud services from 2 angles. So on one side, the senior management saying, hey, cool, there's cloud out there. There's a lot of infrastructure as a service somewhere centrally. I don't need to manage it. I don't need to run it. I don't need to take care to evolve it, to refresh it. So that's all done in the cloud. So it's someone else's problem, and it's for sure cheaper. So let's go for a big cloud transformation, everything, all the IT up to the cloud, because it's much better, much cheaper, and just give it a go. Easy said. Usually what then happens is exactly what I mentioned before. We are setting up a big transformation program, setting up the targets, setting up the key milestones, getting in the program and project manager, all the PMA support, all the technicians who can do such a transition. Hardly said. Most of the guys that are working in the businesses usually are at that point in time when they are not into this boat of the new program of the transition. They are, I would say, pretty much pissed off, because it just means that they seem to be too slow, too expensive, etc., etc. And just from an employee perspective, you bring all the guys into the downside, saying, okay, I'm not good enough, or my job is at risk. What doesn't bring you a lot of benefits on your running business when the guys have such a mindset in their head. On the other hand, when you say, okay, cloud for sure is of interest within various areas of our products, but I leave it to the teams, I leave it to the product teams what to use and what not to use. So they are about to decide which cloud functions are good for them, what can they utilize, and what they are not utilizing. The difference of the two approaches are quite obvious. The one transformation program usually runs initially 2 years without delivering any value to the corporate. On the other hand, you have small, agile product teams who are able to act on themselves, to take the topics on themselves, decide themselves, and implement it in the product and try it out. There's usually a time difference between a few years and, I would say, 2 to 4 months. And then you really make value and benefit out of those services what are coming new on the market. So that is pretty much the short version of the difference. The difficulty is just that usually companies with the size of ours are pretty much executive and senior management driven. And it's quite hard to convince them, saying, let the guys do it. They can, they know what they do. Believe them. As the senior management and the shareholders just want to see the outcome, or want to see the plans, how we improve our operational cost base, how we improve our margins and revenues. So that's usually quite a tricky situation where you're in when you sell things, how you do things to your shareholders and to your senior management. Any kinds of questions till now? Give it a go. Pardon?
How did you convince your senior management?
I would answer it with two sides of it. So the one side is the senior management in Austria. What is, I would say, pretty grounded. Really down to earth management, knowing what's going on, knowing the difficulties what we have. And we had this discussion back in starting pretty much in 2016, that we want to change our ways of working, that we want to go into empowering our teams, giving them the ability to decide on their own to do the right thing for their product, rather than more like a hierarchical way that we analyze and then we say implement. And the reason for that is pretty much the same what I mentioned before when it comes to time to market. So we have seen, I would say our IT implementation and also the throughput was not that bad. But nevertheless, our pipeline was pretty much stuck because the business came up with 1,000 asks and needs and wishes. And we had to react on all of those without any kinds of getting the things out of the way what are bringing absolutely no value. And with the setup now, we have been able to achieve that business is pretty much on board all the way through. So they are the stakeholders. They need to outline what the real use case is. They need to fight for their value, and just when they are successful in fighting, then they are getting it. And therefore the pipe, what we have on the IT side, is far more limited. And the topics what are really on the table, you can then also address those, because you don't have all the other topics around just hindering you in getting things done. And that was seen by the C-level here in Austria as well, that we do have a topic in getting things done, getting not too much on the plate, and the appetite and the need for change was foreseen. When it comes to our shareholder, that's a bit of a different question. Reason pretty much is the biggest company in Hutchison when it comes to telecommunications is UK. UK has, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 employees, serving over 10 million customers, so not that small. And they are usually driving the strategy kinds of for the group, and you then have pretty much always, you need to respond saying, yes, it's not wrong what they are doing, but I have a bit of another way. So without blaming, saying, hey, it's really cool what you're doing there, but I think we try it in this way. And that is actually really quite a challenge. But on, and then you just can show it by the outcome, presenting that you are able to deliver, and what the rest are doing is a separate story. And then on, they consider as well, saying, okay, they might be not completely wrong what they are doing, so let's have a look into it. Please.
I understand that from the perspective of such a large firm, you want to avoid, or it's also necessary to avoid disruptive transformation, and I think that there is a lot of freedom to be continuous in your changes of ITs, but I would be interested in your opinion. Isn't there, so my assumption would be that there is a limit to continuous adaptation, so if you even, if you're as agile as you can be, at some point there will be a new technology and then you have to be distracted. I mean, that would be my opinion.
Yes, and you are for sure kinds of right. I think not when it comes to new technologies, because when you enable the teams to be also innovative, so you enable them to utilize new technologies, you're not hindering them to try things out, then from a technology perspective you can go this evolutionary part. When it comes to a bigger transformation where, as an example, merger is a good example. Doing a company merger in a kind of agile way is a bit challenging. So there for sure you also need some transformational or typical program ways of working and working through dedicated key milestones. That's for sure as well necessary to make it in this way. So but at the end you're right. There's not a completely black and white. It's always the question, what is the right for it? But yeah, overall, in general, I would say you see absolutely more benefits in going in a continuous way, in not disrupting how you do your work, going more in the direction of evolving and taking all your employees and your organization with you. That usually gives you more benefits.
Yeah, going just a bit deeper into Agile and all that stuff, what are the project management tools you are using? Like, is that GR and Compliance?
Yes.
And then, what is the average sprint length?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. The average team size?
I would say 6 to 9. 6 to 9. So six. We have some teams that are smaller, but just due to the fact that it's a specific service, usually it works best when you are by 7 to 9, roundabout.
Almost the last question.
Give it a go.
What are the basic team roles? Because Agile implies that all the developers can both develop, test, and sometimes even develop their requirements. Are they that Agile in your company?
We pretty much, when it comes to development teams, we have pretty much 3 roles. We have the team member, what is working functionally or technically on the product. We have the product owner, what clearly is in ownership of the product evolution, the prioritization, and the stakeholder management. And we have the Scrum Master, or the coaching, let's say. I would tend to go away a bit from saying Scrum Master. I would rather call it Agile coaching.
So basically the Agile coach is both Scrum Master and Project Manager in the team?
No, not at all. So the Scrum Master has nothing to do with the content itself. The Scrum Master really just supports the team in getting better, in doing things differently, in trying things out, in doing the retrospectives, in reflection. So he's really on to that the team works as most efficient within itself as it could be, and that the team also evolves.
But then who does the grooming and they just forming of the backlog for the sprint?
That's the team.
The team. So.
That's the team with the product owner.
Okay. And you also mentioned that you're basically, it's not only about development, but you're making the company agile. Could you explain more in depth, like what does it mean?
Yeah, that's quite a key important question. So the one side is when the IT is agile. That does help you a lot when you want to deliver software. It does not help you a lot when you want to act or react on any kinds of business change from an end-to-end perspective in a quite a timely manner. So I would say the difference is when you would think this setup a bit further, and you would include any kinds of business activities what are required to launch a product, to adopt a product, to make a go-to-market of a product, and include that into such a team setting, then it would go into business agility. So when the team is really end-to-end responsible from saying to a guy, give me some market reviews on X, Y, Z, because I consider to make a product in that direction, processing it, making the right stories out of it, and getting the product on the market, then it would be business agile, I would say. We are, for sure, quite a few steps away from such a stage.
So can you say that the business agile works in the middle and top level management?
No, I wouldn't say so. What we experienced over our journey, and right or wrong, our organizational management is now really pretty much focused on any kinds of the organizational stuff, the budgeting, the staffing, the coaching, the leadership, all those kinds of areas. When it comes to any kinds of products, functionalities of products, roadmap, we are pretty much out of the game. So I'm not talking to any kinds of product teams, what they should do, how they should do it. I'm just supporting that they are doing it right. When it comes then, you could see it as a kinds of, I wouldn't say hierarchy, but we do have some functions called CPO, Chief Product Owners, what are creating a segment of products who are then guiding from a functional perspective where we would like to run to. But that's also done over vision and target setting. So they should also not go into the details. So the product evolution should be with the product team and the product owner of the dedicated product. So that is the target of the setup. But pretty much it feels kinds of organizational wise, it feels weird, I would say, strange kinds of, because prior to this change, all my management, including myself, we have to be dig down into the details on any kinds of developments, what we are doing when they are not working and so on and so forth. And that changed completely within 1 year. That changed completely. If it's right, if it's wrong, we'll see.
May I just ask about your innovation strategies within the company? So let's say you want to develop your services in energy or automotive or something.
Yeah.
To what extent do you see collaboration with startups, for example, a way to...
We do see, or we do have an appetite to collaborate with startups or young companies doing product developments together, absolutely. To be fair, we as an organization, how we act and react, we need some changing from that perspective as well. So currently, we are usually quite good in doing things ourselves for various reasons. We are not that good in partnering. And that's not really quite honest. That for sure needs changing. So just when you look out in the market and the products, what are evolving on the market, you absolutely, there's a must-have to partner with different companies who are good in an area where you never would be that good to cover those vertical from a functional and from a capability perspective. So absolutely yes. It's just still a kind of a way to go, I would say. Any more? Otherwise, I just continue a bit and try to leave out what I have answered already. Pretty much going into the road to business agility, how I have called it, is the first topic is the most important. So the continuous adoption from business through IT to the operations. So getting that chain right, getting that chain working in a quick time to market, getting those guys in a team together who are then really able and capable in doing the right decisions and implementing it in the right way. So that is what we see, what will bring us the value, what we need, and also the focus to get things done. I think one of the most important topics for sure is this get things done. So what we've seen in the past, as mentioned before, within our demand chain, we had, I don't know, a few hundred demands what are just laying there around, and to the point when you have time to address it, it's already over because the world moved farther. So it's really important to reduce the work in progress and to then be able to act on the topic what are now really bringing value for the company, for the customer. It also brings quite a cultural and organizational change with it. So as mentioned before, the role of organizational management has completely changed over the past year. So whereas we have been kinds of functional leaders in the past, we are now just really more in a coaching kinds of role and in a more organizational role supporting the product teams, but not really working on the functional areas.
Are you the same people, the same managers behaving differently?
We changed quite a lot of people, I would say, overall. Just to be placed where they are best skilled for. That applies to the management as well as to the team members within a product team, as well as to the product owners. So this evolution of the ways of working took a lot of, so ended up with a lot of changes from staffing perspectives. But not bad ones, I would say. So it's just kinds of evolution. Yes, yeah. It's a kinds of evolution what you will go through. Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you are just quite directive and everybody has to say or has to do what you are saying, then currently you have a hard stake.
Right, that's what I mean. I was totally impressed that you managed to do it, but I thought with the same people. I'm still impressed, but...
And finally, as mentioned before, so when it comes to innovation, for sure the target is to get the innovation to the core of each product. So the target and the target setting is that the product team himself can decide how far he is going when it comes to innovation, how far he's trialing things out. The downside of that for sure is when you see it from just from an IT angle and from an IT perspective. I would say in the last 15 years, my main target was for sure to keep my architecture pretty much in shape, because I knew that when I have my architecture in shape, I have my total cost in shape, and I can act quite quickly as well, because I don't need to address the same topic 3 times, because I don't have my architecture in hand. So we are pretty much making that more open now. But then as a effect, as a downside, you have that you potentially make things twice or even 3 times, because the product teams don't know from each other. You end up in using multiple clouds as an example. Nothing bad on it, it's just from a management perspective, specifically when it comes to total cost of ownership, it gives you different challenges. Nevertheless, I think it's the right way to go, even though when you do have some topics then to be sorted out in a later stage. But if you don't do it and you would have a strict architecture evolution, you will lose the ability to innovate on your own products, and that is an absolute no-go. I can leave that. So I just summarized a few topics over the journey, what I have seen is most impacting, I would say. Impacting or tricky. I would like to start with the agile principles. So I don't know who came in touch with Scrum or things like that. Okay. So the agile principles, there are not a lot of what the Scrum principles are telling you. There's simple things like people over process, as an example. So the human individuum is more important than a process. Working software is more important than heavy documentation. Things like that, what agile principles are telling you. Another topic what is quite important on that is value. So anything what you do, any user story, any epic what you address, it's all about value. So value is the deciding point if you're doing such user story or if you're not doing such user story. That limits pretty much your work in progress, and that's another main important topic where the agile principles bringing you benefit when it comes to change management. It's all about limiting the work what is in progress. Why is it important? Because when you can focus on the dedicated work, on the dedicated topic, you also get things done. And all the sprints is all about get things done in time. This is the main key. So when we take user stories into the sprint, we want to see it done at the end. And there is no excuse that somebody was asking a different question or something else came in, etc., etc. So that is really key to, at the end, increase your throughput, what you are able to deliver. maybe there are a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to Scrum and Scrum principles or Agile principles. When you would ask a senior manager, what is he expecting out of going Agile ways of working, then the typical answer is, I can have more output, more deliverables in less time. And simply said, that's, I'm allowed to say that's bullshit. It's not about deliver more in less time, it's about to deliver the right things. It's all about to deliver the right things and get rid of those topics that are not bringing you any value. Your organization, or my organization, is not delivering any more than before. It's pretty much the same quantity what we get processed. We are just delivering more the right things, and those things are more aligned with the business owners and the stakeholders. So the transparency is absolutely different, because every stakeholder is highly welcome to join our reviews and just say out loudly for the whole team if he is happy, if he is missing things, if he understood what we have done, and when he has questions why it's complex, then he is also allowed to ask those questions and get into the game. And that is changing the transparency. So the blaming game between business and IT completely stopped. That was real, quite an immediate impact what we have seen over a 3 months evolution. This blaming game that you need to deliver this and that, although I told you not in detail what I require and so on, that completely stopped immediately. And that also changed then the way how you are interacting with each other.
Are user stories, themes, and epics delivered in time every sprint?
No.
Or, okay. I mean,
no.
Because you said like we are delivering in time, and I was like,
that's the target. In this 2-week sprint, that is the target. It really depends on the content, if we can burn it down as planned or not. But at the end of the day, I think the thing what is important is that the team commits to something, and they reflect on their own when they are not able to achieve. So I don't care, to be honest. I don't mind if they are able to deliver 100%. The thing what is more important is that they reflect when they see that they can do things different or better to reach their own set targets. Another interesting topics about the ceremonies. So when you dig into Scrum a bit, you have a few ceremonies like daily stand-ups. So the team is standing together each morning. Everybody is talking about what he is doing, but also things like the reviews. So presenting to all the others and to the stakeholders what we have delivered in this sprint. But also things like retrospectives. Retrospectives is just pretty much looking on the past, what we have done, looking to the front, what is in front of us, and reflecting where we can improve, what are the topics what we need to sort out, where we need to talk, where we need to align, where we need to get agreement on any kinds of level. And interestingly, those formats pretty much evolved and adopted within the organization. So 1 year later, we are doing management retrospects with the complete senior management, the executives, talking about what went wrong, where do we see difficulties, etc., etc. So that really went into the organization and had quite a good welcoming in where the coaches and the Scrum Masters are supporting any kinds of organization in doing such retrospectives, in doing reviews on their evolution, and so on and so forth. So that really gave some interesting opportunities for other organizations to join those ceremonies. Incremental change following in target and vision. So as mentioned, on one side, I think it's important to really set out the topics what you can address in a sprint time, so that the topic is clear and you can address it. But on the other hand, you also have the challenge that you still need to stay on target when you have an overarching target of more products, where you are trying to make a bigger implementation within the whole enterprise, within the architecture, to get that done in time. So that is for sure one thing what is separately to be addressed, because this exercise is quite tricky when you have various dependencies between the products, how to address that. Finally, support teams with the coaching, as mentioned. So that changed on one side on the organization, as well as from a cultural perspective, I would say. So we are now investing round about half a FTE per team just for coaching. Sounds kinds of weird, I would say, when you have per 2 teams 1 coach who are just supporting in their ways of working and get better. But on the other hand, it's introduced a lot of self-reflection within the organization, not only in the development, also in different departments as well as the management level, in doing such self-reflections and taking the step back and say, okay, what do we need to change? Where do we need to talk? How can we evolve? How can we learn? So that is was really quite an interesting topic to see how this evolves. And finally, the productization of the enterprise. What we pretty much did is we tried to slice our enterprise in products. What is easy when you have a customer-facing product, what is quite contained and cleared, like 3TV or Spotify or Netflix, things like that. There it's easy to productize this because you have really limited dependencies, you have a clear scope, you can address this as a product quite easily. It gets more tricky when it comes to life cycle. It gets more tricky when it comes to internal services like financial services, analytical services, and so on and so forth. But at the end, I think the key message is it works out. You can productize your complete landscape. And I think it's really important that you are not going kinds of a way of a 2-mode, bimodal IT, so-called, where in the past years a lot of companies, consulting companies, have been running around saying bimodal is cool. I think it's completely wrong, just due to the fact that it's already quite hard to follow one change process in a corporate. You don't want to have two completely different kinds of working in your organization. Sorry, that's me. So I think I'm running a bit out of time, so I need to speed up. Let's see what I can leave out. Let's come to the final slide. That's the most important. So I think that the most important and the real IP of a company is always the employee. So our employees, my employees, the guys who are working with me, for me, are those who making our company successful. We are just pretty much a digital company. We don't have physical goods. We are not producing. We are not in industry. We just live from the ideas and from the emotion what our employees are putting in to our product, what we are pushing out on the market. And just to make it as quick as that, I finish off with that and say thank you to all to stay such a long time in the evening.
We still should take 2 or 3 questions or comments that the audience may still have. So, who would like to go first? Since if you don't dare, then I do that. So I wonder about one thing. When we talk about the organization of different teams, the product perspective, these are things that are pretty stable if you look at things from a perspective of months. Do you have a first feeling about how things would evolve over, let's say, years? That you need to introduce new teams, that you need to phase out different products. So how is that, these, let's say, longer dynamics, how do they evolve?
That is happening all the time, pretty much. So when we, last example now is we introduce a new CRM environment, and we've seen that we need to address all the self-service areas in a different way. We just divided the team, what is doing self-service, let them decide who is doing which area, and divided the teams in 2 teams addressing a new self-service and still having the old self-service as well developed by the other team. And that is happening on and on. I would not say on a weekly basis, but for sure 2, 3, 4 times per half year, per 6 months. And on the other hand, for sure, when we are coming up with new ideas, when we come up with new business opportunities, we introduce new teams to address those as well. The topic where we still need to work on, what I would like to address there as well, is that the employee can decide on which product he want to go. That is something what is on one side a bit tricky, because you lose knowledge within a team, but on the other side, it would be, I think, quite beneficial also from an employee perspective to have the option that I can say, I want to work for this product because my heart is there, but on the other hand, for us, that means that you will do your best job there.
Right, just show me your hands, since otherwise I just keep going. Since what I also find interesting from that perspective is how do you actually reward people? Since, well, in big companies, it's pretty much a mechanism of aligning interests of individuals with interests of the company to give them bonuses or to promote them. If you look at it from the perspective how autonomously the teams actually go, which kind of perspectives can you actually apply to judge, well, this is a very good team, or this is a very good Scrum Master, or this is a very good developer? So which kind of perspectives do you give them for, I don't know, giving them the chance of being promoted, for instance?
That's a really interesting question. So on one side, once for sure, is all the usual HR processes are not working in that way as they have been before. So making a performance review annual with one employee doesn't make a lot of sense. So just from a target setting, it changes to pretty much the product targets. So you set the targets also for the employees from a product perspective. So what do we want to reach with this product, and have we reached it? So that is changing. So it's not like hierarchical, department-wise. It goes to the direction of product. On the other hand, I know that's now more the downside, but what you see in well-performing teams, that they find each other and also that people are leaving. So when they don't work perfectly together, then they will simply quit. It seems to be quite a challenge or quite stressful when you don't suit to the team how it's behaving. Then usually we see people are leaving. That's the downside. The upside for sure is, and you see that then when guys are taking on roles where they just have the skills but not the ownership. Those are the positive evolutions, what you see where the Scrum Master goes into the functional product, giving hints and tips and working with the team on the functional topic, what is absolutely fine. But this is where you can see that the team starts really working as well. And usually when you have those guys, then the product outcome is good as well. So to cut it short, the product outcome is pretty much what is a decider. And I think that's pretty much it. So as it stands now, we don't have any kinds of hard KPIs other than that, saying team performance, burn down charts. We do have that, but we don't quote on it.
So here's another question up front. I come to you with the microphone.
I think I speak louder enough. Okay. So, okay, my question is, are the employees, I mean the developers or the Scrum Masters, are entitled to choose the project they would like to work on, or is just like given, from the above?
Currently, it's not introduced like that everybody knows that it should be or is like that. But I'm working on this, yes. So my intent is that the employee can select the product where he want to work on. That's the target, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I still got time. Okay, so I thought basically your change into a continuously changing organization was quite a radical change, right? So I think this transition was quite radical. Is it still the same firm? And the question goes a bit further. What happens to a firm when it is so agile? So is it still the same company, or would you say it's different for the customers, for the employees, and so on?
I think it will take a bit more time. It will take a bit more time to see the effect specifically on the market. On the market, it takes at least 3 years that you see an effect. Internally, yes, it's a different company. Now, already. It's a different company, absolutely. Is it good? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, it's good. What are the key topics? What really changed? One key thing, as mentioned, is for me the reflection and learning. We haven't done that before. Sitting together with the complete management team, talking about what is good, what is bad, how do we need to improve, or speaking out something like, I don't know, I have an issue with this, and discuss it in the front of the whole group is something completely new, but it helps you evolve. And that changes also the kinds of relation what you have within your corporate. That makes it more invisible. So you have on and on, you have more an invisible organization and not a hierarchical. So all the hierarchical stuff is pretty much, it feels loose.
Right, there's another hand, yes. Wait.
I wanted to ask you, how did you start out this whole transformation? Did you have like any consultant to help you out to start with one team, or did you just wake up one morning and said, let's be agile?
Originally, we did an analysis with a company who supported us in analyzing where we as a company can improve when it comes to change management. And to cut it short, pretty much the simple outcome was that the business IT relation could be improved. And that was pretty much the start where we digged into how to do that. And in the realization then, we pushed the main stakeholders together, trying to design the new ways of working, trying to set the cornerstones, how it should look like, to have pretty much a starting point where we can start on then. And then it was pretty much a one-off implementation. So from one day to another, we said, okay, we have a new organization. We have, from an organizational perspective, new organizations, new responsibilities, as well as within the development and the teams, we have new product teams, we have new functions, we have new roles there, and let's fill it up.
All right, so I would like to close it with one final question in relation to what kind of opportunities you have for students.
Quite a lot of opportunities. So that's actually that's one reason, to be honest, why I'm here. Joking aside, we do have serious difficulties in get new good employees on the market. And that is pretty much the reason why we said, okay, let's try to connect a bit with the universities. Let's try to get in touch with students just on one side to make our brand a bit more visible to people like you are, that you have at least in mind, hey, there's a company called Drei, they might be cool and I can try to join them. And actually we would really appreciate. So whenever you finished or almost finished with your university, you're welcome.
All right, I think this is a nice encouragement and also actually a very nice final word. Thanks a lot for being with us tonight.